My stepbrother isn't just different. He's a whole different species of human. When I say different, I mean the kind of different that makes you scratch your head and wonder if he's from another planet. For one, he's painfully shy, so shy that it's almost an art form. Yet, somehow, girls are constantly sneaking glances at him like he's a character straight out of a romance novel. Maybe it's because he's tall, has those sharp features you'd expect on a magazine cover. Or maybe it's the way he carries himself, quiet, brooding, mysterious. But here's the kicker, he doesn't care. Not one bit. No girlfriend, no close friends, just him, his books, and a perpetual look that says, "Leave me alone." I always tease him about being a secret agent because of how much he keeps to himself. Maybe he's plotting the next big espionage mission. I joke to myself, but nope, he's just shy, quiet as a shadow, except when he's raiding the cereal box. Sharing the house with him during the holidays has been a mix of fun and baffling moments. Sometimes, he's so silent that I forget he's even there, like an invisible roommate with a penchant for stealing the last bowl of Frosted Flakes. Then came that day, a day I'll probably never forget, no matter how much I might want to. It was one of those lazy, sun-drenched afternoons when the house felt unnaturally still. Everyone else had gone out, leaving just the two of us at home. I was in my room, halfway through getting ready to leave, when I decided to yell out, "Hey, I'll be leaving soon." I figured he'd just grunt from wherever he was, probably buried in another one of his novels or daydreaming about saving the world. What I didn't expect was for my door to creak open moments later. First, I froze, mid-change, caught completely off guard. There he was, standing in the doorway like he just stumbled into an alternate reality. For a moment, time itself seemed to hit the brakes. It was the kind of scene you'd expect to see in a slow-motion movie montage. Except this wasn't romantic or heroic. It was awkward, painfully awkward. His face turned redder than I thought humanly possible, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. He stammered, his voice barely audible. "Excuse me," I shrieked, grabbing the nearest object in arm's reach, a pillow, and holding it up like it was some kind of shield. "I didn't know you were," he started to explain, but I cut him off. "Out, out, out," I yelled, hurling the pillow at him with as much force as I could muster. He ducked, stumbled backward, and nearly face-planted before slamming the door shut behind him. From the other side of the door, I heard a muffled, "Sorry." It was all so absurd that I couldn't decide whether to laugh, scream, or do both at the same time. Ultimately, laughter won. I doubled over, clutching my sides as the sheer ridiculousness of the moment hit me. Later, he returned, and let me tell you, I wasn't prepared for round two. This time, he didn't bother knocking, just barged right in like he owned the place. Startled, I spun around, clutching my hairbrush as though it were a weapon. "What now?" I exclaimed, half expecting another awkward apology and an even more awkward exit. But this time, his demeanor was different. Serious. Too serious. The kind of serious that makes your stomach twist because you're not sure what's coming next. I have a request," he said, his voice shaky but determined. "A request," I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "If you're here for your pillow, forget it. It's been confiscated." "I'm serious," he replied, his face so red that it looked like he might spontaneously combust. He shuffled his feet, avoiding my gaze, before finally blurting out, "I'm sorry." I blinked, unsure of where this was going. "Okay, apology accepted." "No, I mean there's more," he stammered, his words tumbling out in a nervous rush. "I've never hugged a girl before." "Wait, what?" I stared at him, trying to process what I just heard. Was he joking? He wasn't. His expression was dead serious. "I don't know what it feels like," he continued, each word more awkward than the last. "And I want it to be with you." It took me a moment to fully grasp what he was saying. When it finally clicked, I burst out laughing. I couldn't help it. The whole situation was just too bizarre. "You barged in here, scared me half to death, and now you're asking for a hug," I said, still laughing. Yes, he replied, nodding earnestly, as if this was the most logical request in the world. After a moment of internal debate, I sighed and said, "Fine, but if you ever pull something like this again, I'm telling everyone you cried during that cartoon movie last week." "You wouldn't," he gasped, horrified. "Try me," I shot back with a smirk, and just like that, I ended up giving my shy, awkward stepbrother his first ever hug. It was weird, sweet, and definitely something I wasn't going to let him live down anytime soon. But, of course, he wasn't done. As he pulled away, his face still a deep shade of crimson, he hesitated before speaking again. "There's one more thing," he said, avoiding eye contact. "What now?" I asked, bracing myself. "I've heard boys at school talking about, touching a girl's." He gestured vaguely toward my chest, his face so red it was practically glowing. "I've never done that, but I really want to try." I froze, utterly speechless. Then, without warning, I burst out laughing again. It wasn't just the absurdity of his request, it was the sheer awkwardness of the way he said it. "You've got to be kidding me," I said, shaking my head. "Dream on, buddy." And with that, I shooed him out of the room, still laughing to myself. Life with my stepbrother was nothing if not unpredictable. "You mean you actually want to feel my big balloons?" I asked, biting my lip to keep from laughing outright. It was such a ridiculous thing to say, but there was something oddly endearing about it, too sweet, in a goofy kind of way. He nodded so enthusiastically I thought his head might come off. "Yeah, but I heard they're not really like balloons. More like big oranges," he corrected me, his tone serious but betrayed by the tiniest smile creeping up at the corners of his lips. I blinked at him, unsure if I should burst out laughing or just play along. After all, how often do you find yourself in a moment this absurd? My mind raced as I tried to think of a clever response. Then, an idea struck, and I couldn't help the grin that spread across my face. "All right," I said, my voice teasing as I folded my arms. "But there's one condition, you have to do it with your eyes closed." For a moment, he just stared at me, his mouth slightly open, like he was trying to decide if I was joking or completely serious. But then, as if a light bulb went off in his head, his expression changed. Determination flickered in his eyes, and I could almost hear the gears turning in his brain as he squared his shoulders. He was ready to take on the challenge, no matter how absurd it might seem. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes tightly, and said, "Deal." His face scrunched up like he was trying to solve a Rubik's Cube with his thoughts alone, and I had to press my lips together to keep from bursting out laughing. He stepped forward, his hands stretched out in front of him like he was about to grab a ghost. Except they were way off, nowhere near where they were supposed to be. I couldn't help it, a giggle escaped me. "No, not there. A little to the left," I said between laughs, guiding his hands. He shifted awkwardly, following my directions with an almost comical level of concentration. Finally, his hands landed in the right spot, and his eyes snapped open in surprise. "Whoa," he exclaimed, his voice full of wonder. "They're not like oranges at all. They're more like squishy pillows." His wide-eyed expression was so earnest that I couldn't contain my laughter any longer. We both doubled over, laughing so hard tears started streaming down my face. The sheer ridiculousness of the situation was too much, and his genuine reaction only made it better. It was as if he had just discovered some great, universal truth, and for a moment, the world was nothing but laughter and silliness. "See," I said between gasps for air, "you're not just a walking encyclopedia. You're a space explorer now. Welcome to the mysterious land of Bobville." He looked at me, half embarrassed and half amused, but eventually, his grin matched mine. It was one of those rare, unguarded moments where everything felt lighter, like the weight of everyday life had disappeared, leaving only pure, unfiltered joy. That day became one of those moments you carry with you, not because it was particularly significant, but because it was so uniquely yours. It wasn't just a silly memory, it was a turning point, a tiny shift that made everything feel a little different. After that, something unexpected happened. The awkwardness between us melted away, replaced by a new kind of ease. He started opening up more, sharing thoughts and stories I never thought he'd feel comfortable saying out loud, and I found myself doing the same. The rest of the holidays were filled with laughter and late-night talks that felt deeper than anything we'd shared before. I started to see him in a new light, not just as my shy stepbrother but as someone who had his own quirks, curiosities, and layers waiting to be uncovered. And when the holidays ended, and we went back to our regular lives, that day stayed with me. It wasn't just a memory of laughter and silliness. It was a reminder of how even the smallest, silliest moments can bring people closer. Looking back, I realized how much that day had taught me, not just about him but about connection and understanding. It's easy to overlook the quiet people in our lives, to assume we know them just because they don't speak up. But everyone has their own mysteries, their own unspoken thoughts, waiting for the right moment to be shared. For him, that moment seemed to spark something new. Slowly but surely, I saw him change. He started stepping out of his comfort zone, making friends, and opening up to others in a way I'd never seen before. And for me, it was a lesson I'd carry forever. That sometimes, the most meaningful connections come from the most unexpected places. Even from something as silly as comparing pillows to oranges. To my utter astonishment, he started dating someone, and it completely caught me off guard. First, I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could this be the same reserved, soft-spoken guy I had known for so many years? Yet, there he was, walking side by side with a girl, their hands intertwined as if they had been a perfect match all along. The way they looked at each other, those subtle, tender glances, spoke volumes. It wasn't just infatuation. It was something deeper, something genuine. Their smiles were effortless, their laughter infectious, and together, they radiated a happiness that felt almost tangible. I had always thought of him as someone who would take years to come out of his shell, someone who might shy away from the idea of a relationship altogether. But there he was, proving me wrong in the most beautiful way possible. They weren't just a couple. They were a pair that seemed to fit together effortlessly, like two pieces of a puzzle finally finding their place. Whether it was the way she leaned toward him when she laughed or the quiet confidence he now exuded when they were together, it was clear that they had found something special in each other. As time went on, their bond only grew stronger. They weren't just happy. They seemed to bring out the best in each other. It was as though her presence helped him discover a part of himself he didn't even know existed. The once quiet and introverted boy I had grown up with now carried himself with a newfound assurance. It was in the way he spoke, in the way he carried himself, and even in the way he smiled. There was a spark there that had never been before. Witnessing this transformation was like watching the final, unexpected chapter of a story unfold. A chapter that left you marveling at just how unpredictable life can be. It reminded me that people are far more dynamic than we often give them credit for. Sometimes, all it takes is the right connection, the right person, to unlock something extraordinary within them. I never thought I'd see this side of him, but seeing him so at ease, so unreservedly himself, brought me an unexpected sense of joy. It wasn't just about the relationship he had found. It was about the person he was becoming because of it. He was confident, happy, and, most importantly, comfortable in his own skin. It's a powerful reminder that people have the capacity to surprise us in the best ways. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes, the quietest of individuals can undergo the most remarkable transformations. You never know when someone will step out of the shadows of who they were and embrace the light of who they can be. All it takes is the right moment, the right connection, or the right person to bring it all to life. Thank you for taking the time to watch our videos, and especially subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. Our channel will always update interesting content. Thank you and see you in the next videos.